Hi, it's Alex. Welcome to Unedited Coding, episode 2. This time we're gonna be forking Flutter. After in the previous episode we were debugging the Slider.label. I'm gonna show you what I mean. Let's switch to the IDE. So this is the slider, right? And the slider has a property, a label property. Let's just uncomment it here. And last episode we were trying to see why when setting the label when setting the label and running it, we couldn't see any effect on the slider. So at the end, after debugging, we concluded that it is default of the show value indicator. It has to be specified. In this example, I just made it work like this, where you specify a theme, where the slider theme has the show value indicator set as always. And as you can see, this makes the label appear. In this episode, what I want to do is I want to fork the Flutter framework, because eventually what we want to do is change this behavior, right? Where we have the slider widget and we specify the label. It's pretty obvious that we want the label to appear. It shouldn't be through the completely what seems to be as unrelated this slider theme, you know. I mean, it does make sense to have the show value indicator options, but I think they should work differently. So in this case, if you specify show value indicator always, you'd expect the label to appear no matter if you choose a value by yourself, right? Because you're already passing the value and just doing a string representation of that. Would make sense if you have a theme where show value indicator is always. So let's say that we want to change the way a widget, which is in the Flutter framework, works. And let's say that we feel this is an improvement or a bug. It doesn't matter. What we will do in this session is just fork the Flutter SDK so that we can work on it separately. I will try to make this session shorter so that we can have quicker progression in between episodes. So I hope it's gonna be less than the last session. So let's just get down to it. So in order to fork the Flutter framework, and again, I have done this once, but because I usually forget how I do the different things, and I think everyone is like that, you can't remember everything, so you will remember some things and you'll forget some others. Everything that you do should be somewhat easy, as in there has to be guides to help you go through it. So this is how I usually go about doing things. I know that, and we're now on the main Flutter page. From there you can go to the Flutter GitHub. It's where the source code is. So either through the GitHub icon over here or through community over here, right? So we'll go to the GitHub source. And now we're on the GitHub page. And there is this Flutter repository over here, right? So, and again, if you're not sure, you can just look around, try different things, and usually in the documentation you'll see if you're in the correct place. So for example, how do I know that I'm in the correct place? Because I can see all the README about Flutter, and I have the contributing to Flutter documentation over here, and this is where we're gonna go, right? So let's do contributing to Flutter. It has some introduction things that you probably should read if this is like your first time, but it doesn't have to be all in on this. If you feel like it's not all relevant to you, I mean, you're just trying to figure out a few things, like I did in the first place. Like, I have read some of these things, and I've read them on different occasions, so I don't think in one sitting you should be doing all of this. Okay, so we want to be developing for Flutter in this case, right? So because we want to take the Flutter SDK and just change it a little bit, try to see maybe we can come up with a better solution to handle the Slider.label property. So how do we do that? We'll go to setting up your framework and development environment, because everything else kind of doesn't make sense, you know. Setting up your engine development, which is, if you're developing the engine, as you can see, that's just the inner stuff of Flutter. So the widgets are in the framework itself. So we'll go over here, and there's some dependency stuff that you should have before beginning, and probably when you try to do the same thing, you'll figure out that, for example, I don't know, maybe you don't have Python or SSH client or like other stuff. It happened to me. It will always happen because sometimes you have a new setup, you're working a new machine, things like that. But it's fine. You still gonna do something along the lines of getting to a problem and just trying to solve it, like what I'm about to do now. So let's start from the beginning, right? So ensure that ADB, Android Platform Tools, is in your path. How do you ensure that? You go to your terminal. Usually that's what you would do. And just try ADB. And if you see that you have the command help, then you have it on your path, which is good. Next, we need to fork the Flutter repository from GitHub. So we'll keep this tab open, we'll just duplicate it so we can go to code. Oh wait, no, we don't need to go to code, we can just fork from here, right? Fork my repository. Awesome, so it's gonna do some work, and we can see if you haven't configured your machine with an SSH key that's known to GitHub. But this is how to do it. I think I have. Hope I have. Yeah, we can do the git clone from here, but I think that cloning is easier. Oh, okay, so it filled. You see, there's my page. This is my fork. I usually clone just directly from the GitHub page. So I'll go over here, I'll copy the path. And what you can do, you go to Android Studio. So what we're doing now is we're forking and cloning the Flutter SDK into our setup, into our machine. Let's do project from version control. Let's do git, paste the thing that we copied, and set it up over here. Yeah, this is a good place. So let's test it before, and we're just cloning it. Let it clone. Okay, we'll do the clone, and then we'll just go into that directory, I'm assuming. Going. Then what we need to do, add upstream. So basically, so that you fetch from the master repository, not your clone when running git fetch, etc. What this means is because you have forked the Flutter like source code to your GitHub user. Your remote, your origin, your master branch is actually the one that is now static on your GitHub user. What you want to do is follow the while you're developing your stuff for the Flutter framework, like altering the widget and stuff. You always want to be updated with the most recent changes that are made on the original, on the Flutter project that is on GitHub itself. And in order to do that, you need to add like this, like exactly, it's not the branch, but to add a different origin, I think. It would be a good way to describe it, so that you can pull from there and not from your user's Flutter framework. But okay, so we've done the git clone, we'll do the cd, which, oh yeah, okay. When you've done the import, it will ask you if you already have a project open, if you want to open in the same window or in the new one. Let's say it doesn't matter. Let's just open this one. Just connect. So this is how the Flutter project looks after you clone it using Android Studio. I usually skip all of this, I think. And let's go to terminal, right? So now we're over here. Just pretty much the same as doing cd Flutter. We've done the git clone. And we want to now add this with everything. Yeah. I want to now add it. Just add it over here. Git remote, add upstream. Not sure it works, but who knows? Try git fetch, git pull. Right up to date, right. So what we want to see is, instead of origin, we want to see upstream, I think. But I am not sure. Maybe it is origin. I think we'll find out soon enough, right? So, and now add this repository's bin directly to your path. I don't want to mess with my path right now because, well, first of all, it's something that I didn't do last time because it was a bit annoying on Linux, which is macOS, but I think it will be different between Mac and Windows as well. So I will show you the way that I worked before. So if you add it to your path, then you can just, whenever you type Flutter and you're closer to your forked Flutter repository, it will use that one instead of using the original one, the one that you are developing with. So just to make it more clear, imagine that now you have two Flutter SDKs, right? So the one is the official one, the stable branch one, the one that you installed when you were starting to work with Flutter, and the second one is the one that is the fork that we just created, right? So when you use the Flutter command in your terminal, depending on your path, it will use either the one that is the original one or the forked one. So we want to run Flutter update packages, just so it pulls all the package data. And the way that we'll do it is if we'll just do Flutter update packages without adding Flutter to our path, it will actually do the same thing, but in your main Flutter SDK, so in your the one that you were using before forking, right? Which is a good thing to do, but it's not what we want in this example. So we'll let it finish and then we'll try to do the same, but for this SDK and without adding it to the path. I guess I never ran it in my original SDK, probably because I don't need it over there. Yeah, we don't need to run it for everything, especially not for this one. So let us do so we want to find the Flutter that is actually in our SDK, which is, if you take a look over here, so this is what we just forked. This is our cloned project. And as you can see, there is no Flutter over here. Usually in the bin file, you see this Flutter, or Flutterbot if you're using Windows. And this is the one that we're gonna reference. So we'll do, I think, bin, right? Flutter, and update packages. Update packages. I think this is even looks different, but you know, I think this is what we should be doing. So this is actually downloading the Dart SDK from Flutter Engine. What else do we need to do? On the IDE config override. We'll do that too, maybe it will help. Oh, it is gonna do, okay. I think it's gonna do the same thing. Yeah, well, it does make sense. I will probably speed up this part It's no point of just showing it. I mean, it is somewhat still unedited. So basically the reason I'm doing this is because I think if you look that everyone has difficulties, and you see how they are approaching those, let's say, difficulties and challenges, you can adopt some things for yourself. For example, if you see someone who has a good practice on I don't know, researching or debugging or just writing code in a certain way, then it's nice to have things that you consider good that you can adopt for your own style, as opposed to just seeing like tutorials where everything is already finished and it just makes you feel as if it's very easy, you know, while you're trying it on your own and you're like, oh damn, I don't have this SSH thing, or I don't have something else, or, you know, like you forget that updating packages difficult sometimes, or long, or whatever, or you need to add something to your path, or whatever, you know, how different approaches that you might have that help you deal with problems. And basically this is why I'm not editing like stuff out. I will probably speed this part a little bit, but you know, this is what developing is all about. Having to listen to music while you download stuff sometimes, or just compile. So after this, this will finish. We'll basically have a working standalone Flutter SDK which we can alter. And what we will do is we will create a branch of our own, and we'll do some changes to the slider widget, and then we'll create another project where we will see that as long as we use this SDK as our as the framework for that project, we'll see that our changes take effect. And this will be basically us knowing that we've set up everything correctly, and we can continue on other things. For example, like actually solving the issue and deciding on how to finish this bug or feature. Yeah, maybe. While it is still happening, we can look basically where is the actual Flutter stuff, like where is the actual slider, right? That's what we want to know. Double shift, I think, allows you to search for things. I'm not sure. Yeah, kind of feel like we can find it over here. Is it the one? Let's see. Yeah, it seems like we found. Yeah, so double shift will let you look for classes. Sure, enabled hard support. Back to the terminal. Will let you look for classes and files. So as we can see, the slider is located in packages Flutter lib source material, right? So it's in the material directory of the packages. And what we will do, we'll try to see, maybe we can add some quick and easy changes to the Slider SDK, just so we can see that if we change something here, it reflects directly on the project that uses this file, the new forked Flutter framework, if it will ever finish. Also, we'll hopefully won't see all those errors. Yeah, it just finished. This is good. And yeah, the good thing is that we see that now it's at least doesn't show a lot of errors. It does show some of them. I think this is in test and other stuff. Do wonder why. Let's just, I'm curious. Let's see what it once doesn't exist. Package file Cupertino. Really? Sure. Stuff in Cupertino. Yeah. You never know. Never know. Okay. So what we will do now, let's see that this is the only one, right? There's no other projects. We'll create a new project and we'll use this project, this copy of the Flutter framework as the SDK for the new project. So let's see where it is. In settings, if you look for Flutter under languages, you can see that you have the Flutter SDK path. Let's just see the Flutter, right? So just go over there. Oh. There, right, Flutter. Yeah, and we can see that we need to get the Flutter that has the bin in it, right? So I think we can just go over here, go to our copy, which is over here in casts, and get Flutter. And as you can see, now we have this channel master and stuff like this, so we actually know what version of Flutter we're working on. So if the previous one was 1.9, on the one that we forked is 1.12. At least we're working on a newer version, not that it matters, but we know that it sees it now, right? So we'll just accept that over here and we'll create a new project, right? No errors anymore. Interesting. Cool, so let's go. Let's create a new Flutter project and we'll call it Slider Fix, maybe. well, not slider fix, but slider test. Not that it matters. Let's just do that over here. And this time we'll just have two projects open at the same time, because I think it will be easier. The slider test is over here. And this is where we'll be trying out stuff. So first of all, we'll just double check that our Flutter SDK is the one that we forked. And it is not. So we'll switch to it from here. And we'll do OK. That's actually pretty important to do. And we'll start the emulator, which I think was already, yeah, already on. And let's just try running it. Different Flutter repository, and so this warning is shown when you change midway your Flutter SDK. So as you can see, if you have multiple copies, right? So and it won't work right now because what we need is to create the project when we have the correct SDK selected, the one that we were actually working with. Let's try it again. New Flutter project, right? Oh yeah, okay, so I forgot this. So Flutter SDK path, easy. We select the one that we forked. Slider fix, and then we do, isn't this? Yeah, slider fix, sure. Finish. And this window. So basically we have two windows, right? Two projects that we'll be working on, well, let's say simultaneously, but whatever works for you. The slider fix and the Flutter SDK itself. Maybe we can even just work on one. I actually never tried it. Let's see. So we're on slider fix. What we want to make sure is that we actually can run. If everything works. So this is the default project. Let's go. It's gonna work. I think it works. Yep, so I think this is already an achievement, right? So we have forked Flutter framework to our own GitHub user, and then we cloned it to our computer, and then we created a new project that works from that clone, right? So for example, we'll cheat a little and we'll open the, I think it was called Slider. So it's the project that I was working with on the previous cast, and just copy the main from it because we don't want to type everything again. It will just take some time. Not that there is a lot of typing here, but you know, let's save some time at least. Right, and let's rerun our code. Right, cool. And if we go to Slider, we can actually go to Slider from here. What I would like to see is maybe if we can have the branch. If we can have the branch for changing the framework from inside this project. I don't know if it's like the best idea, but let's see if it's even possible. So usually if you try to alter something in the source code, it will ask you if you want to change unchecked code, right? So let's say, yeah, this is non-project files. I mean, it makes sense. Do you want to edit something that is not in your project over here? So I think we will maybe go to our Flutter, right? So Flutter has examples as well, right? Maybe we can create our own example. This way we're still over here, right? So maybe what we'll do, or maybe we can try and find the Slider example, but I don't think I know if one exists. Oh, I just now remembered that we never executed the Flutter IDE config override, right? So let's do that. We need to remember that we need to do the full path for the Flutter, otherwise it will override, not that I know what it does, for the default SDK. Which means we'll do bin Flutter IDE config override. IDE config override. Yep. It is prudent to restart IntelliJ if running. It is running, and we will restart it. Okay, let's just close. I think I'll just close this one. Right. And I will just restart. So what I want to do now is to which other one I want to use. So what I want to do now is have first let's see if we have. We can just create our new branch, right? So create a new branch and we'll call it Slider fix, right? So we're now completely on a new branch. We can do whatever we want. We can look at the log. We can see who did what and when they did that from the master. Yeah, okay. And now we'll just try to see, maybe we can create different hello world. I think it thinks this is a Java project, right? Yeah, which is nice, but not exactly what we want. And we see that we can. Can we run any of those? Create, run. Nope. Okay. Yeah, I think maybe for now we'll still have to have 2 projects to work with. Not that this is such a big deal, but maybe it would be easier So, okay, this is the slider, right? So there's a slider state and the slider render object. From the last time, I kind of remember that the render object widget or the render slider are the ones that actually render the label. There is somewhere that there is the material build method. So it's probably, it might be in the state, yeah, build material slider is the one we use. And we can see there is, okay, let's see what's going on here. If the widget has active or inactive color specified, then we plug them in the, so this is about the colors. Yeah. This is our show value indicator, right? For example, from the last session, I see that I remember that show value indicator is by default none, only for discrete, right? Let's say that we want to just prove that changing over here stuff takes effect in our second project, right, where we actually use the slider. So let's say that we've decided that it doesn't matter what you have in your theme, like we're ignoring it. So we will use the show value indicator always, right? So it's always like that. Let's then open our side project, create a new one, and go to main, right? So this is our side project. Let's run it again. And if you ever want to check, are you still running your forked framework, just go to settings, Flutter, over here, you can see which one you're running, right? So this is now running and it shows because it has the theme with the setup. So if our change has effect, it doesn't matter if we have theme with the show value indicator always, because we already changed it to be always all the time, no matter what you even have in the theme, right? So let's just try and running it. You see it already changed to the blue one because we are not using theme. And yeah, as you can see, this basically shows that we are now changing the Flutter SDK, and it has effect when we use the widget that we changed inside the framework itself. For example, if we wanted to create a commit with this change, it would look something like that, right? So this is the file that we changed, and changed from this to that, and we could say that now we disregard the slider theme when setting the value to show value indicator. Alright, so we committed, and this is all one running file. Yeah, it's fine. Wait. Okay, this. And this is all on our branch, right? So you can see Slider fix. This is our commit. Again, later on the next episodes, when we'll try to do a pull request, this will be something that we'll use, right? So we'll have to create a commit and create some tests and actually fix the problem in a better way. But I think this is enough for the first session. I hope it didn't take as long as the previous one. So we just forked the Flutter SDK, we cloned it to our environment, and we changed some things in the Slider widget, and then we showed that now when we use the forked SDK, the change actually takes effect. So in the next cast, what we'll do is we'll actually fix the issue the way that, for example, I think should be done. And then we'll see how it goes from there. We'll probably create the pull request and some tests. So thank you for watching. I hope this is somehow useful. I'm definitely having fun trying to see how I can be more verbose when I'm explaining stuff. So leave a comment of things that I'm doing wrong. I will try to be better next time, and thank you. See you next time.